the latch gives a small, familiar creak, bamboo on wood. A wooden scoop scrapes the lip of a jar, and rice sighs into it. I hear a voice, low and certain. We keep the year in these jars.
Welcome to Ancient Echoes, KH. Samnong Bradley here. Today we step into a shaded village yard where the community granary sits like a small, careful heart. I promise a story of trust, seed, and the paper ledgers that keep memory and meals in balance.
Good to be with you. We'll listen to the women who tend those jars, the cooperative secretary who mediates loans, and a teacher who teaches children to save seed as if they were treasures.
First, a quick context corner. Communal granaries are not just storage. They're social systems, rules about who borrows, how seed is returned, and the rituals that bless a good harvest. We will not give technical storage instructions. This episode documents cultural practice and social meaning, and we link to accredited agricultural resources in the show notes for any practical learning.
What matters here is social credit and seed sovereignty. These granaries are often stewarded by women whose names aren't on maps, but are written into the village's everyday economy and memory. Keep that in mind as we walk through this story.
The matriarch I met that morning, her hands browned by sun, stood at the mouth of the granary and cupped a small heap of rice. She didn't need a scale. She closed her eyes and said gently, "This will carry us to the next planting." She taught me how she judges a season by the sound of a handful falling into her palm.
I remember that line when she spoke, the way she threaded memory into measurement. The layers matter. A measure is economic, yes, but it is also a promise, a note of trust between households.
Nearby, the cooperative secretary keeps a small ledger, simple paper, careful ink. She writes names and amounts, but the entries tell a larger story. She records who borrowed seed for a late planting, who brought back extra after a good year, and a few lines note when a household offered a bracelet or a day's labor as repayment. She told me, smiling, that sometimes a single line of the ledger is more about apology than arithmetic.
That's where the cultural practice becomes governance. The ledger is not just accounting, it's social memory. It carries reputations, obligations, and sometimes forgiveness. It's also gendered work. Women most often fill that secretary role, balancing community needs with household demands.
I asked the young teacher who runs seed-saving workshops why she invites children into the granary yard. She laughed, and the next thing I heard was a chorus of small feet pattering under banana leaves. She says, if the children know the seed, they will keep the story. They learn to name varieties, some with names like old songs, so that the seed keeps a life beyond the season.
Consider this perspective. Naming a variety is an act of cultural preservation. It ties a plant to a person, a field, a story. For communities, that prevents loss through simplification and market pressure. Seed sovereignty is as much about language and memory as it is about genes.
Let me bring you into a scene. The secretary shifts a scale, a small clink. A neighbor arrives with a woven basket and a nervous smile. She needs seed to plant after unexpected flooding. The secretary opens the ledger, scans the lines, and then speaks quietly. Take this, return what you can, and in harvest, help with the threshing. The neighbor nods. There is no ceremony, just a network of mutual obligations stitched into daily life.
The risks of misunderstanding are real. We must be careful not to romanticize scarcity or to treat these arrangements as quaint curiosities. These practices exist because they work for people, because they are precise social technologies for survival, equity, and accountability.
I asked about rituals. Before a big deposit, women whisper a short blessing, some words of thanks, a wish for a safe storage.
Not all households do it the same way, but the gestures act like a shared protocol, reminding everyone that food is a public trust as well as private blessing.
That ritual tone binds the practical and the sacred. From a cultural standpoint, gestures like a whispered blessing transform a pile of grain into a promise. The community watches the ledger and the jars, and both keep each other honest.
Now listen. Close your eyes and imagine evening settling over the yard. The tamp of rice into jars, a distant market call, frogs beginning their low chorus. That mix of sounds marks the rhythm of the day and keeps the granary's story alive in sound.
In production, we'll weave a layered yard mix here. Jars clinking, conversation at a distance, a single lantern being lit. For this conversation, know the scene so you can carry it with you as we continue.
After dusk, I spoke with a local agrarian organizer who asked to remain unnamed on the record. They work across dozens of villages. She emphasized social credit systems. A loan is a relationship, she told me. If you break the trust, you break the network. So villages guard reputation like they guard seed.
The organizer added nuance about gendered stewardship. Women often mediate distribution, manage disputes, and keep the ledger because these tasks map to broader roles: household provisioning, ritual caretaking, and social negotiation. That continuity is essential to resilience.
She also pointed out the pressure of outside markets. When cash crops become lucrative, some seed varieties are at risk of disappearing because they're not profitable on market terms. So these granary networks and seed workshops act as cultural insurance, holding varieties that might otherwise vanish.
We want to be clear. We will not publish household GPS, schedules, or private ledger entries. We also avoid giving procedural storage tips. Instead, here are ethical ways listeners can engage. Ask local liaisons listed in our show notes, compensate participants fairly, and support recognized community seed projects or nonprofit partners, rather than requesting seeds directly.
Traveler tip: if you visit a village and want to learn, ask to be introduced by a community liaison. Bring a modest gift or payment for time, and never photograph ledger pages or private lists without explicit consent. Respect and reciprocity keep the trust intact.
If you want to support seed sovereignty from afar, consider donating to vetted organizations that work with local custodians, support documentation projects that preserve variety names and stories, or fund workshops that pay teachers and stewards directly.
Before we close, one small reflection. There is a quiet brilliance in the way trust becomes infrastructure. These women keep accounts not only with ink, but with memory, neighbors, and ritual. That ledger is, in a way, the village's long view, balancing hunger and hope across seasons.
And for researchers, practitioners, or students listening, remember to center consent, anonymize sensitive financial details, and prioritize benefits to the communities whose histories you wish to share.
Thank you for walking the granary yard with us. For show notes, source links, and community contacts vetted by our team, visit the episode page. If this story stayed with you, please subscribe to Ancient Echoes KH. Help us keep telling quiet stones, loud stories. Samnang Bradley. Listen, learn, belong.
We'll be back with more field recordings and stories of everyday custodians, keepers of craft, memory, and seed. Until then, take care and travel respectfully.